The human diplomatic ship arrived above the emerald world of Virlia under a sky filled with silver clouds and slow-moving moons. It was humanity's first official visit to the Virlian Empire, a civilization older than most human nations combined. The mission was meant to be peaceful, symbolic, and careful. Every human aboard had been trained for years on etiquette, posture, and silence. Among them was a man no one expected to matter. Elias Carter was a combat medic. He wore the same uniform as the others, but his place was at the back of the delegation, close to the emergency exits, far from the cameras and ceremonial paths. His job was simple. If something went wrong, he would help the humans. No one had said anything about helping an alien queen. The grand hall of the Virlian palace was alive with light. Tall crystal pillars reflected colors that shifted with every movement. The air hummed softly, not with sound, but with energy. At the far end of the hall, upon a living throne grown from white gold stone, sat Queen Zalthara. She was taller than any human, her form graceful and powerful at the same time. Her skin shimmered like polished pearl, marked with faint glowing lines that pulsed slowly, in rhythm with her heart. Her eyes were deep violet, ancient and sharp. She was not just a ruler. To her people she was sacred. The humans bowed as they had practiced. The Virlians did not bow back. They did not need to. The ceremony had barely begun when everything shattered. A sharp sound cracked through the air, like glass snapping. A pulse of dark energy streaked across the hall, too fast for most eyes to follow. It struck the queen in the side of her torso. For a brief, frozen moment, no one moved. Then Queen Zalthara fell. The hall exploded into chaos. Virlian guards surged forward, weapons unfolding from their armor. Energy shields flared. Alien healers rushed toward the throne, their voices rising in sharp, melodic tones filled with fear. The human delegation was pushed back, surrounded by guards. Diplomats shouted in confusion. Security teams tried to identify the source of the attack. Elias did not shout. He saw the way the queen's glowing lines flickered and dimmed. He saw the dark wound leaking not blood, but a thick, luminous fluid that hissed as it touched the floor. He saw the healers hesitate. They were afraid. He did not wait for orders. Elias pushed forward, ducking under an energy barrier as it briefly shifted. A Virlian guard turned toward him, weapon half raised, but Elias did not slow. He lifted his hands, palms open, his movements clear and calm. "She's dying," he said, his voice steady. "Move." The guard hesitated for only a second, confused by the human's lack of fear. That second was enough. Elias reached the queen's side and dropped to one knee. Up close, the wound was worse than he had thought. The energy blast had torn through layered tissue and struck something deeper. The glow beneath her skin was unstable, flaring and fading in uneven pulses. The Virlian healers circled, their tools hovering uselessly. "The biocore is destabilized," one of them said, voice shaking. "The resonance is wrong. We cannot." Elias did not understand the words, but he understood the tone. He pulled a compact medical kit from his belt. Human technology looked crude beside Virlian devices, all sharp edges and solid metal instead of flowing light. He scanned the wound quickly, eyes focused, mind already working. "She needs the energy bleed sealed," he said. "Now." A healer looked at him in disbelief. "You are unbonded. You cannot touch her core zone." Elias did not look up. "If I don't, she dies." He reached toward the wound. The moment his fingers came close, Queen Zalthara's body stiffened violently. Her eyes snapped open, glowing brighter than before. A sharp, breathless sound escaped her throat, half pain, half shock. The hall went silent. Her voice, when it came, was barely more than a whisper, but it carried across the chamber. "Only my consort may touch me there." Gasps rippled through the Virlians. Several guards raised their weapons fully now, energy building along their edges. The healers froze, terror clear on their faces. Elias stopped his hand midair. He looked at her face, at the strain in her expression, at the way her glow flickered weaker with every passing second. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I don't know what that means, but I know you don't have time." Her breathing was shallow now. Each breath seemed to cost her effort. "If I stop," Elias continued, "you will die. If you want me to stop, I will, but if you want to live, I need to keep going." For a long moment, Queen Zalthara stared at him. No one spoke. No one moved. Then slowly she lifted one hand. Her fingers trembled as they closed weakly around his wrist. Her voice was faint but clear. "Do it," she said, "and let the stars judge the consequence." Elias did not hesitate again. He placed his hands over the wound, adjusting his tools and injecting a stabilizing compound designed to slow energy loss in unfamiliar biology. It was a risk. Human medicine was never meant for this, but doing nothing was worse. The queen cried out softly as the compound reacted with her biocore. Light flared under her skin, bright and painful. Elias held steady, sealing the torn layers with precision and speed born from years on battlefields where seconds decided lives. The Virelians watched in stunned silence. Slowly, the flickering glow stabilized. The violent pulses eased into a steady rhythm. The luminous fluid slowed, then stopped leaking. Queen Zalthara's breathing deepened. Elias exhaled for the first time since he had knelt down. "She's stable," he said. "Not healed, but stable." The silence broke into whispers, sharp and urgent. Guards lowered their weapons, uncertain. The healers stepped closer, awe and fear mixed in their expressions. The queen's eyes remained open. She looked at Elias, really looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. "You did not ask permission," she said softly. "No," Elias replied. "I asked time." A strange expression crossed her face. Not anger, not fear, curiosity. "You touched what no outsider has touched in 10,000 cycles," she said, "and you did so without hunger for power." Elias shrugged slightly. "I just didn't want you to die." The words were simple, honest, unpolished. That more than anything unsettled the court. The queen closed her eyes briefly, gathering strength. When she opened them again, her voice carried farther. "Remove him," she ordered, "but do not harm him." Two guards gently guided Elias back. He did not resist. As he stood among the human delegation once more, his heart finally began to race. Only now did the weight of what he had done begin to settle. Around him, humans stared at him in shock. On the throne, Queen Zalthara straightened with effort, supported by her guards. She raised one hand and the hall slowly quieted. "Today," she declared, "a human stood where none of my people could. Today my life was preserved by a species the galaxy still calls young and weak." Her gaze found Elias across the hall. "This matter is not finished," she said. "Ancient laws have been invoked whether we wish it or not." The words sent a ripple of unease through the Virelians. Elias swallowed. He had come as a medic, a background presence, a contingency. Now, under the light of alien stars and the gaze of an entire empire, he realized his life would never return to what it had been. And somewhere deep within the Virelian palace, old traditions stirred, awakened by a single human touch that had refused to let a queen die. The hours after the attack passed in a strange silence. The human delegation was confined to their wing of the palace, guarded politely but firmly. No one explained what was happening. No one answered questions. The shining corridors outside their rooms felt colder now, as if the palace itself was watching. Elias Carter sat alone on a narrow bench, hands resting on his knees. He had scrubbed them twice already, but he could still remember the warmth of the queen's skin, the way the light beneath it had fought to survive. His training told him he had done the right thing. His instincts agreed, but instinct had never prepared him for ancient alien law. A soft tone echoed through the corridor. The door slid open without sound. Two Virelian guards stood there, tall and motionless, their armor glowing faintly. "The queen summons the human medic," one said, "not requests, not invites, summons." Elias stood. He straightened his uniform and followed them without speaking. They led him through parts of the palace he had not seen before. The halls here were narrower, less decorative, the light calmer. This was not a place for ceremony. It was a place for truth. At last they stopped before a circular chamber. The doors opened and Elias stepped inside alone. Queen Zalthara stood at the center of the room, supported by a faintly glowing platform. She was no longer on her throne. Without it, she seemed less distant, more real. The glowing lines on her skin were steady now, but dimmer than before, as if conserving strength. "You may leave," she said to the guards. They obeyed at once. The doors closed. For a moment, neither of them spoke. "You saved my life," the queen said finally. Elias inclined his head slightly. "I did my job." A faint curve appeared at the corner of her mouth. It was not quite a smile. "That answer troubles many of my people," she said. "Among us, such an act is never only a job." She moved closer, her step slow but sure. Elias noticed now that she leaned slightly to one side, still injured, still healing. "Do you understand what you touched?" she asked. "My guess," Elias said carefully, "is something very important." "It was my Korban zone," she replied. "It is bound to identity, lineage, and rule. To touch it is to declare connection." Elias felt a weight settle in his chest. "I didn't mean to claim anything." "I know," the queen said. "That is the problem." She studied him in silence, her violet eyes sharp, searching. "You showed no fear," she continued. "No desire, no ambition. You did not even ask my name." "I knew it," Elias said. "It just wasn't relevant at the time." That earned him a soft, surprised sound from her, almost laughter. "Among my people," she said, "every noble in that hall would have hesitated. Some would have let me die rather than break tradition. You did not." "I couldn't," Elias said. "Not when I knew how to help." The queen turned away, gazing at a projection of stars forming slowly above the chamber floor. "Because of your action," she said, "the ancient laws have awakened. They do not care for intent. They care only for what was done." Elias swallowed. "What does that mean?" "It means," she said, "that the Empire now sees you as something you never asked to be." She faced him again. "A possible consort." The word landed heavily between them. "I'm human," Elias said quietly. "I'm not royalty. I'm not even important back home." "That may be why the law noticed you," she replied. Before Elias could respond, the chamber doors opened again. This time, the room filled with presence. Virelian nobles entered in controlled silence, their attire glowing with status markers Elias did not understand. At their head walked an elder with silver-white markings across his face, symbols of age and authority. "The council thanks the queen for her recovery," the elder said, bowing slightly, "and now demands clarity." The queen straightened, her weakness hidden behind centuries of command. "You will have it," she said. "Speak." The elder's eyes moved to Elias, sharp and cold. "The human violated the most sacred boundary of our kind," he said. "Whether by ignorance or arrogance, the act stands. Tradition requires judgment." Elias took a slow breath. He said nothing. "What judgment?" the queen asked. "The trial of worth," the elder replied. "If the human is unworthy, the bond is voided and his life is forfeit. If he is worthy," he paused, "then the law recognizes him." A low murmur rippled through the chamber. Elias felt his heart pound. Forfeit his life. The words echoed in his mind, heavy and unreal. The queen's gaze hardened. "I will not allow his execution for saving my life." "You cannot deny the law you embody," the elder said calmly. "Even you are bound by it." Silence followed. Then the queen spoke, her voice steady and clear. "The trial will proceed," she said, "but not as it was." All eyes turned to her. "The human will be judged not by our measures of dominance," she continued, "but by the values that led him to act: survival, sacrifice, duty." The elder frowned. "You would change the trial." "I would remind it of its purpose," she replied. "To ensure the protector of the throne is worthy of protecting life." The chamber went quiet. At last the elder inclined his head. "So be it." He turned to Elias. "Human, You will face 3 trials, not of strength alone, but of will. When? Elias asked. Immediately, the elder said. The first trial took place in a vast arena carved deep into the palace foundations. No crowd filled the seats. This was not a spectacle. This was judgment. Elias stood alone on the stone floor. Across from him, a massive creature emerged from the shadows, all muscle and plated hide, eyes glowing with controlled aggression. A guardian beast, a voice announced. You may not kill it. Elias stared. He had no weapon, no armor. The creature charged. Elias moved. He ran not toward it but sideways, forcing it to turn, using its size against it. When it struck, he dodged, stumbled, rolled, always staying just out of reach. Each movement was calculated, not brave but necessary. Minutes passed. His breathing grew heavy. His muscles burned. Then he saw it. The beast was injured. One leg favored slightly. Not weak, just damaged. When it charged again, Elias waited until the last second and then dropped, sliding beneath its bulk. As it stumbled, he reached out and struck a control node behind its limb, not with force but precision. The beast collapsed, stunned, not dead. Elias stepped back, hands raised. I don't want to hurt you, he whispered, though he knew it could not understand. The arena lights dimmed. The second trial was quieter. Elias was placed in a chamber with a single console. On it appeared images of human colonists on a distant world, records, projections, real lives. A voice spoke. Redirect power to save your people. Doing so will end virally and aid to 3 outer systems. Elias stared at the screen. Numbers scrolled, probabilities, lives measured in data. He closed his eyes. No, he said. The chamber paused. Explain, the voice demanded. Because choosing who deserves help based on who looks like me is wrong, Elias said. If I saved the queen only to become that kind of person, then none of this matters. The display went dark. The final trial came without warning. An explosion rocked the palace. Alarms rang. Lights flared red. A real attack. Elias was running before anyone told him to. He followed the sound of screams to a collapsed corridor. Violent civilians were trapped beneath fallen crystal and debris. Guards struggled to lift the rubble. Elias dropped to his knees, ignoring pain, lifting, pulling, stabilizing injuries with whatever he had. He worked until his arms shook, until his hands bled. At one point, a guard shouted, "Human, fall back. Your life is under threat." Elias did not look up. So is theirs. When it was over, he collapsed against the wall, exhausted. Queen Zalthara stood nearby, supported by guards, watching silently. The elder approached her. "The trials are complete," he said. "And?" she asked. The elder looked at Elias, then bowed. "The law has spoken." Elias lifted his head slowly, heart pounding. For the first time since the attack, Queen Zalthara allowed herself to smile. Not as a ruler, but as someone who had seen hope take human form. The palace did not celebrate the decision right away. Vyrlia was an old empire, and old empires moved slowly when something impossible happened. Elias Carter was taken from the ruined corridor to a quiet chamber overlooking the inner gardens. Medics treated his cuts and bruises, both human and Vyrlian, working side by side in careful silence. Outside the wide crystal window, living trees bent gently as if listening. Elias sat on the edge of the bed, exhaustion pulling at every muscle. He did not feel victorious. He felt empty. Too much had happened too fast, and his mind struggled to keep up. The door opened without a sound. Queen Zalthara entered alone. She moved more easily now. The glow beneath her skin was brighter, steadier, no longer struggling. Still, she was not fully healed, and Elias could see the effort behind her calm steps. "You should be resting," Elias said automatically, then stopped himself. "Sorry, habit." She waved the comment away. "So should you." She stood near the window, gazing out at the gardens. "The council has accepted the trial's outcome," she said. "By law, you are recognized." Elias swallowed. "Recognized as what?" She turned to face him. "As my consort." The word still felt unreal. I didn't do this to gain anything, Elias said. You know that. I do, she replied. That is why this does not frighten me. She approached him slowly, then stopped a respectful distance away. Among my people, she said, a consort is not a symbol of dominance. It is a vow to stand beside the throne, to guard life when power fails. That sounds like a lot for someone who was just patching wounds a day ago, Elias said quietly. She studied him with those ancient eyes. You did not seek the throne, she said. You ran toward danger when others hesitated. You protected without being commanded. Those are not small things. Elias looked down at his hands. I don't belong here. Neither did I, she said softly, when I first took the crown. Her words surprised him. Before he could respond, the palace alarm sounded again, not the sharp, chaotic cry of an emergency. This was deeper, slower, a warning. Queen Zalthara straightened at once. They are moving faster than expected. Who? Elias asked, already standing. The factions who believe tradition should have killed you, she replied, and me if necessary. The palace shook as something struck its outer shields. They will not wait for ceremony, she continued. They will try to force the law back into the shape they prefer. Elias felt a familiar focus settle over him. Fear faded, replaced by clarity. Where am I needed? He asked. Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but in respect. By my side, she said. They moved together through the palace corridors as guards fell into formation around them. Reports flowed quickly through the air, projected as shifting symbols only the queen fully understood. Rebel ships had emerged from stealth positions near the capital. They were not attacking the city directly. They're aiming for the core towers, Elias said, reading the movement patterns. If they destabilize power, the shields will drop. Yes, the queen replied. And panic will do the rest. They reached the command chamber. Viorlian officers turned in shock as Elias entered beside her, but there was no time for argument. Seal civilian sectors, the queen ordered. Redirect energy to medical zones and shelters. One officer hesitated. What of the council districts? Let them wait, she said calmly. Today the Empire protects its people first. The hesitation vanished. Elias watched the battle unfold through holographic displays. Viorlian technology was advanced, elegant but rigid. The rebels knew its patterns. They're predicting your responses, Elias said. They know how you think, the queen nodded. They were once loyal. Elias stepped closer to the display, then stopped thinking like a queen for a moment. She glanced at him. Think like a medic, he continued. Stabilize first. Don't try to win, just keep things from getting worse. Silence fell around them. Then the queen gave a sharp, decisive order. Pull back the outer defense line. Let them through. Gasps echoed across the chamber. They will breach, an officer began. And overextend, Elias finished. They'll think you're weak. The queen's eyes gleamed. Do it, she said. The rebels surged forward exactly as Elias predicted. Their formation broke as they rushed toward what they believed was a failing heart of the Empire. Now, Elias said, Viorlian ships shifted, surrounding the rebel fleet from multiple vectors, not attacking, containing. Broadcast on all channels, the queen ordered. Open frequencies. Her image appeared across the rebel fleet, calm and unafraid. You came to enforce tradition, she said. You came to kill to preserve purity. Her gaze hardened. You will not find honor in the ashes of your own people. Some ships hesitated. Others powered weapons. Then Elias stepped forward, surprising everyone. He spoke into the open channel, his voice steady, unamplified by authority. You don't know me, he said. I don't know you, but I know what it's like to think rules matter more than lives. Silence spread. I saved her because I could, he continued, not because I was chosen. If you fire now, you're not defending tradition, you're just afraid of change. One by one, rebel ships powered down. Not all. A single vessel broke formation, charging its weapons toward the palace. No, someone shouted. Elias ran. He sprinted toward a manual control station near the chamber's edge, overriding safety locks with shaking hands. He rerouted energy, pushing the system beyond its limits. The blast hit the shields. The palace shuddered violently. Elias slammed the final command. The redirected energy surged outward, neutralizing the incoming fire but overloading the station. The console exploded. Elias was thrown back, hitting the floor hard. The chamber filled with smoke and sparks. "Elias!" the queen shouted. She reached him as guards pulled debris away. He was conscious, barely, blood running from his temple. "I'm okay," he murmured. "Mostly." She placed her hand on his chest, directly over his heart. For the first time, she did not hesitate. The contact was steady, open, equal. "You stood between my world and destruction," she said quietly. "Again." The remaining rebel ship retreated. The battle ended not with victory cries but with relief. Hours later, the city stood intact. The council gathered in the grand hall once more. This time Elias stood openly beside the queen. No guards blocked his path. No whispers followed him. The elder stepped forward, his expression solemn. "The law has been tested," he said, "and reshaped." He bowed, not only to the queen but to Elias. "The empire acknowledges the bond," he continued, "not as conquest, but as unity." Queen Zalthara addressed her people, her voice carrying strength and warmth. "Today," she said, "we learned that survival does not belong to the strongest alone. It belongs to those willing to stand for others." Her gaze moved to Elias. "This human did not come to rule us," she said. "He came to save life. Let that be the legacy we choose." Later, as the palace lights dimmed and the city rested, Elias stood again by the garden window. The stars above Vierlia felt closer now, less distant. "I still don't feel like I belong," he admitted. The queen stood beside him, her presence calm and certain. "Belonging," she said, "is not decided by birth or law. It is chosen every day." She looked at him not as a queen looking at a subject, but as one guardian to another. "Will you stay?" she asked. Elias thought of Earth, of battlefields, of lives saved and lost. Then he thought of a queen who had trusted a stranger with her life. "Yes," he said, "I'll stay." Above them the stars burned on, witnessing a future neither species had planned, but both would defend together.